What does his text mean?
So frustrating.
Maybe he's just not that into me.
She really likes
I've
me.
always been bad
How
at
can I
flirting.
get her attention?
I'm ready for
I
marriage.
just want somebody to share my life.
Is this relationship
going
anywhere?
anywhere? Modern Love Made Simple. This is Dates and Mates with Damona Hoffman. In studio with us today, I have a celebrity matchmaker, Carmelia Ray. You've seen her on the show a few times before. She is internationally acclaimed for matchmaking high-achieving men and quality women. You may know her as a TV personality as well. She has starred in the show Mom vs. Matchmaker. She's also been on The Real Housewives of Toronto. And most recently, A User's Guide to Cheating Death.
That was super fun.
Serious, girl.
Really great.
You've seen her also in Ask Men, Variety, The Hollywood Reporter, OK Magazine, and so much more. And she recently launched a dating app called Senseo. She'll be talking to us about that and about so much more. So please give big smooches to my guest co-host today, Carmelia Ray.
Woohoo!
Welcome back, girl.
Thank you. Always glad to be here.
I like this girl power because
Yes.
you know it's Women's History Month.
Yes.
And
you told me that.
I don't know. She's from Canada, so
Yeah.
maybe it's not. I don't know if it's Women's History Month in Canada. I think it is. But, you know, dating, we've been doing this for a long time. We've been seeing the evolution of dating for women, even just in the last decade that I've been dating coaching. The trends have really shifted the way we connect. And I've seen women become more empowered in their love lives. And I say take control of your dating destiny or your romantic destiny. So I think that's the perfect thing to talk about in today's show, and how these changing gender roles and women becoming empowered and the Me Too movement have really shifted the way that men and women connect in today's dating world.
It's very true that more women feel empowered, and at the same time, I do see women that are still fearful of asking a man out, or just as a coach, they're saying, "Is it okay if I, send the first message?" And I'm thinking, of course it's okay. Do you experience that also?
Absolutely, and I want to dive real deep into that with our guest, Robert Kandell. Robert Kandell is an interpersonal communication expert, speaker, and podcaster. And he's the author of the best-selling book. I have a copy right here. We'll also put it on the screen. Unhidden, a book for men and those confused by them. His work has been featured in the New York Times, in Inc. magazine, Cosmo, Bustle, The Atlantic, Time, Huffington Post, Vice. And now you're seeing him here for the first time on Dates and Mates. Please give big smooches to Robert Kandell.
Hi, how are you doing? So glad to be here. So honored.
Oh, I'm so glad to have you here. We needed a male voice. We were having a lot of estrogen flowing,
I see.
which is a good thing.
I got the testosterone handled for you.
Thank you.
Right.
Okay.
Though I am in touch with my feminine side, so we can go there well.
That sounds perfect. That's
Yes.
that's what guys are encouraged to do today, right, Carmelia? They got to be a little bit of everything.
Yes.
But earlier, Carmelia brought up a really good point that in today's world, the dynamics are really shifting. And we're kind of stuck in this in-between phase where there are a lot of women saying, well, I can't send the first message. I can't make the first move. In your work, have you seen a shift in what is acceptable behavior for a woman in terms of how to begin the dating process?
Yes and no, depending on the demographic. So certain demographics, more progressive, women can do basically whatever they want, and a man can either say yes or no, show up, maybe. Other demographics, it really is old school in terms of historical dating patterns. And so it really...
Like the Mennonites?
Yes, exactly. Exactly.
I don't think there are any Mennonites listening to the show.
You never
They
know.
can't.
There's
'cause
three.
it's
There's
tech.
three of them.
Maybe the population of singles over 40, over 50, maybe generational gaps.
I've lived in major cities my entire adult life, and so that's one. But then I go and talk to other demographics in different parts of the country, and it really is amazing what a bubble we live in major cities, Los Angeles, San Francisco, New York, Chicago. And then you go to other places where they really are old school. So it really depends on the demographic of paying attention to your audience, like everything else.
So I will say I'm from what some people call a flyover state.
Okay.
I fly to there. Other people fly over it. But it's a state I love, Michigan.
Okay.
And I will say a lot of the people that I went to school with married at a much younger age than the people that I coach in big cities and the people that I deal with in Los Angeles. I'm sure Toronto is probably a similar.
Toronto's
thing.
very progressive, and yet when you go just 30 kilometers, or in your case 30 to 40 miles.
I'm like, I can't compute
I know
that. What's she
30
talking
miles
kilometers?
outside of a major city, it's considered the boonies. Like it's just there's nothing there. People think that the only thing happening is right in the city. So the dating mentality is different. Absolutely.
Are you seeing then that? Is there a change in the marrying age? Because I know overall it's getting higher.
Well, there's been significant changes, especially in the last 40 years. So this is the first time in history where there are more single adults than there are in couples.
Yeah, I read that.
2012, it just flipped to 50.1%. So it's the first time the age of getting married, I think it was 20 to 21 in the 1980s. I'm sorry, I didn't memorize this number. Now it's getting closer to 26 and 28. 26 for women, 28 for men. And so the time to get married, at a more lower level, what I'm seeing is that women are now raising the bar, because whereas 40 or 50 years ago, women needed men for financial success, to buy a car, to have a house, the economic is really shifting in the 21st century. So now women have more choice. And in doing so, they're saying, what worked in the past is not working in the present.
So let's talk about that choice, because I think for a lot of people, it's this paradox of choice, this feeling that at the swipe of a finger, you have unlimited options.
True.
How do you feel swipe culture is impacting the way that we connect, and in particular, the way that women show up in a dating situation?
I think it's an amazing thing gone wrong. Like, I think the whole swipe
created a
culture,
monster.
it really is a monster. And I can speak more from my research around the men's side and, of course, the impact on women. But men are, biologically hunters. We love the game. We love the thrill, the chase. And what the swipe culture has created is a perfect video game for relating. And what happens is men are not staying in for the rough spots because they know they can pick up their phone, turn on an app and have all these multitude of options. So what's happening is we're hitting roadblocks and then we're splitting rather than going through the trials and tribulations of getting intimate with a woman.
Are you seeing this too?
I'm listening to the opinion, and I do agree. No, I do agree that more people have this mentality of, FOMO. It's just going to be better, or don't invest in that relationship. So I do see that. And then at the same time, it's also confusing because the communication, and as you said, women having a higher earning potential, they have, more education than the options are out there. So they're also not settling also. They're not settling.
Absolutely.
They also feel as if they have the right to or want to meet someone that's above them. And they're challenged with that because in some cases, the options for them are so slim.
Right. And I'll add more confusion to the mix. So
That's what we aim to do here.
Exactly.
Jason.
It's a confusing time. It really is. And first is to acknowledge how confusing it is. So there's an author named Michael Kimmel who wrote a series of books on men's work. And one is this book called Guyland. And it's the concept of how men's adolescence 100 years ago ended when they were 13. And then they progressed into getting married or having a job by 16, 17, 18. Now, in the 21st century, adolescence isn't ending until the 30s.
Oh,
Right?
man. I
LA for
I can
sure.
agree with that.
So because people are living longer, boys and young men and men, whatever you want to call it, are saying, well, I'm going to live till 90. Why do I need to become an adult in my teens or 20s where it was even 30 years ago? They're extending, they're keeping the best of their college days and continuing. And so it's this really changing dynamic. And my chargy statement I like to say to inspire debate is that men are acting more like boys and women are acting more like men. Because
I agree with that.
what we're seeing is that there's this bigger chasm that's existing between men and women in the 21st century.
Wow, that's deep. Do you?
That sounds like a real challenge for the dating. We have a lot of work to do, Damona.
It does, but I have to say, I'm a pretty empowered woman that's also in touch with her masculine side. And I've said for a long time, I think this is the best time ever in history for a woman to be single. And I'm actually reading this book right now, All the Single Ladies, by Rebecca Traister, and she talks about like the evolution of relationships and the dating, marriage age getting older, and that most women were getting engaged before they were even out of college if they went to college.
Right.
Now women are outpacing men in college degrees. I think I read something like 35% more women will have college degrees this year than men. And that, don't quote me on that one, but I think I read that yesterday.
No, it's true. Well, it flipped. So college entry was 66% for men in the 1950s and 60s. Now it's flipped. Women are now dominating the educational field, with women at 66% of college entry from college to graduate school.
So is this really a bad thing? That's my question. Like the masculinization of women, can that still be okay? Do we need this?
I think the challenge.
polarity?
I think the challenge with that is unless women or society as a whole, singles as a whole, understand where they're at and who their options are. So for these strong, successful, educated women, knowing that there's 33% more women like them and less men for those options, have their needs changed? Do they now, if they don't require a man to earn money and they don't require a man to support them, then what are the requirements that these men have to fulfill? I was speaking to another expert that was saying for women, it's more attractive for a man to power a stroller than to power a business suit.
Oh my God, guys in baby Bjorns are so sexy. Like that is a mark of greatness.
But the impact, yes, and from the women's side, but yes, and on the men's side, is men are feeling emasculated. They're not feeling in their power. They're in, again, what Michael Kimmel calls a grieved entitlement. And there's a lot of studies are saying that men don't know who to be. And yes, there are many men who are happy in the father mode, but most men feel impotent in that position.
I guess it depends on, again, the changing view of what a man or who a man's supposed to provide, and also the changing view of gender roles. Now that this is going to be the future where women are empowered and they're making these choices, perhaps the view of men and what they're supposed to provide will change.
Hopefully.
And that might change that.
Well, my hope in my book is really a call out to men to say it's a tough time to be a man because of these changes, and it's the best time to be a man because you're hanging out now with empowered women who know what they want, who have their own financial resources. There's an opportunity for egalitarianism. There's an opportunity, but men are not stepping up. They're actually heading in the wrong direction. They're hanging out with their bros. They're watching porn. They're playing video games. They're not stepping up to the challenge. So again, there's different demographics. Some of course are, and some are never will. But the middle needs to step up to match all these women coming into their power.
I think men who have less of a bank account and a higher emotional IQ will be more put themselves in a better position to be chosen by these powerful women.
But some men don't even know what emotional EQ is at this point. So
well, that's the the point. That's what
exactly.
they have to arm themselves with is the EQ.
Right. And it's like any other,
go back. I did an episode on it like 4 episodes ago.
So
Male
like
EQ.
men will put intense energy into a video game, getting to the different levels. They'll put energy into a job. And so my advice is put the energy into learning about your emotions, how to handle a modern woman, how to be in polarity, how to understand what they're going through, because that's what women want. Women, in my experience, desperately want partnership. They want men to meet them, but men need to step up to the challenge, enjoy the game of it, and then that's where the best nookie happens.
All I have to do is tell my husband that I'm a video game, figure out how to play me. Figure out how to play me.
If that language works for you, yes. Yeah.
I'm going to throw you a curveball, Robert Kandell.
Yes, ma'am.
Because we're living in a different era now since about, a year and a half, 2 years ago, when it became exposed that so many women were dealing with sexual discrimination and unwanted sexual advances. And Me Too really changed not just the workplace, but in my experience, also the dating and relationship game.
Definitely, yes.
Tell us about what you're seeing in your work. And I know you talk about this also in Unhidden, in your new book. So tell us how this, you think, has impacted men and the way that they are relating to women today.
First off, I was so excited by Me Too. I continue to be thrilled because this this experience of women, the impact that men have on women has been going on, of course, forever. The patriarchy is 6,000 years old. So there's been 6,000 years of this, pushing under the carpet or not confronting. And so I'm so excited because it is a major social revolution into getting to that egalitarian spot. Now, what's happening is women are feeling safer than ever because they have this, I'm not saying 100% safe, but safer to feel more free to speak, to whistleblow, to bring out, and men are shrinking in fear. So there's so many men who won't mentor women. There's so many men who won't even go on dates with women, ask women out, open up the door out of the fear of ramifications. So it's been a negative impact in terms of men's confidence. At the same time, it's been an important social change.
I do hear that from men that are like, I don't know if I can make the first move now. Like if I touch her, am I going to be accused of something? And I'm really seeing a backlash in some respects in the dating realm to Me Too. Carmelia, what do you see as a matchmaker? You're talking to both men and to women.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of advice that men ask me is around what's appropriate on a date. And as well, I get a lot of questions from women asking them whether or not they should date someone in the workplace or that workplace dating is a big issue. As well, the close contact, like what time should they go on a date? How much information should they share? So there's a lot of concern on both sides because of the Me Too movement. So I can see how there's always that, pros and cons to this situation.
What are the new rules, Robert? What would you say to a guy or to a woman who's confused by a guy?
The answer I have is, it may be unusual, but I say, men, learn to be gentlemen. And what I mean by this specifically is men in the past have gone like the pouncing. Like there's been like a offensive way of men, and they go until they hear no. And in the past, that's been on some level socially acceptable. Now you can get tossed out of your job or even sent to jail for that. And so now they're like, I don't want to even play. There's a middle spot where you can actually still have presence and slow down, but take in the receptive information that a woman provides. Because you can listen. To me, Hitch, I don't know if you saw the movie.
Of course.
Favorite.
We get compared to Hitch all the time.
Yep.
Oh, so you're like the female Hitch?
Yeah,
yes.
right?
Yes.
Hitch to me, the moment of the kiss is the perfect form of consent and how to deal with consent. Because I don't know if you remember, he's about to kiss Kevin James on the stairs, and he leans in 90%, which shows to a woman, which is important, intent, the ability to show up.
I have a story to share about that.
To lean in, to take the first risk, but then give the 10% for the woman to say yes, no, or maybe, and stay in that spot. Now, of course, Kevin James kisses him, and it's very funny.
Don't do that.
But really, it's an amazing model for men to show up, be available, but also take the receptive information that a woman can provide.
That's great advice.
Here's a situation that recently came up with two clients of mine. It was a gentleman and a woman. They had a great dinner date. He was walking her to her condo. They actually lived in a similar area. And he had said, I actually have to go home and walk my puppy. Would you like to, meet my dog? And she was thinking nothing about it. And on the way, and she thought, okay, that's fine. It's safe. We met through a matchmaker. They've been completely screened and qualified. And she trusts me. Along the way, he looks at her and says, may I kiss you? Do I have permission to kiss you? Because he felt compelled to kiss her, but didn't want to kiss her. And she was like, because he asked the question, it completely threw her off. Mm-hmm. And then she felt uncomfortable to go to his apartment because he asked the question it just took the romance off. Now, I'm not sure if that particular situation, he was asking for permission because he wanted her to feel safe. But it also changed the entire dynamic of the date, and now she didn't feel safe to go to his apartment.
No, okay, hold on a second, gals. Like,
right?
We need to. What do we want here? Do we want to be respected, or I don't see how that takes the romance out of it. Knowing that a guy cares about your safety, do you think he should have said it a different way?
I think that there's two things at play here. I don't know why he asked permission, but it likely has to do with the fact that there was Me Too at play, right? Because do you advise men to ask permission to kiss a woman, or do you do the hitch movement where you just, let them lead?
I think they could do it. They could ask it in a sexy way. We've seen this in movies and TV shows before. A man saying like, "Can I kiss you?" It may have been the way that he delivered it,
It's
and
possible.
maybe she was already on the fence.
A little on the fence. Sure. So there's two things there. It's like I was surprised that she was taken so far aback for that it would impact her from wanting to go to his apartment, because. How did that change? You had a wonderful experience. He's a perfectly safe guy, completely safe person. But she no longer said, let's just walk me home.
I have some theories about this.
Sure.
So first off, she probably felt some part of her vigilance center, the amygdala, the part of the brain that's always looking for a tiger to eat us, was probably activated at some point about going to the apartment for the dog. So she was already somewhat uneased.
Okay.
Not communicating that, but just okay, there's yes, but eh. Second thing is that communication's built up of three parts. There's the words or the context. There's the intonation of the voice, the modulation, and then there's the intention behind it. When all three line up, that's when communications land. I suspect he might have felt really nervous about the kiss or unsure, and so she might have felt not the words could have been perfect, but in the intention behind it, there was some frazzle. And that's what's called nonverbal communication.
Sure.
That's so important. And I think he probably mixed metaphors. If he would have gone for the dog and then walked and eased that part of her system, he didn't have the ability or the education to get attuned to her nervous system, her vigilance center. So if he just would have slowed the down, then he could have had it, because there was some kind of rush, take the energy of I want to kiss you and build on it rather than the pounce. That's what I suspect happened.
A very astute observation, I think. And there are ways that you can say it in different words. I think you're right. In body language and in your intonation and your intent, there's a lot in the context.
She's very traditional. So for me, if a guy had asked me on a date and it went really well, hey, I have to go walk my dog. Do you mind if we did that?
She was already mad about that. She was like, you should have thought about your dog before.
That could be it. Yeah, that could totally
right?
be it.
I hate dogs.
But he could just say, I really want to kiss you right now. I think there's also a misunderstanding of what consent. I don't think it needs to necessarily be. I've heard of guys having a consent agreement written up before they have sex with women now. I don't know that it needs to be that explicit, but if he says, I really want to kiss you right now, and she says, maybe later, or you see her body language pulling away, that is telling you, no, not right now. But if she says, well, then why don't you? I believe that is consent.
That is consent.
Course.
I agree with you.
I don't think you necessarily need a, may I kiss you? Yes.
Sign on the dotted line.
Sign on the dotted
line.
line. Well, great. You could just e-sign this on your phone. You can just use the tip of your finger here.
Yeah.
We could go on and on about this, but we have questions from listeners. So let's take a quick break. And by the way, Unhidden, a book for men and those confused by them, you can get it on Amazon. You can also go to robertkandell.com and there's a link there to buy the book. But so much more. I mean, look at this book. There's so much more. We've just grazed the surface. So I encourage you to check out Unhidden and to get your own answers to these questions that we've been posing today. Okay, we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, more of your questions. And by the way, I also want to just thank all of our new listeners and the people that have taken the time to review us on iTunes. Producer Leah, we've gotten some new reviews, I think, in.
Yes, we have.
Let's take a moment to just thank one of our lucky listeners.
Yeah.
I'm lucky.
We'd like to thank Loda Vicious.
Ooh, that sounds
yeah,
sexy.
They write, Dates and Mates by Damona Hoffman is outstanding. Show is fresh, clever, and helpful to people of different age groups. Lightly mixed with celebrity dating gossip, Damona brings
J-Lo,
on...
check.
Yeah. Damona brings on a wide variety of dating and relationship experts.
Thank you, Carmelia Ray, check.
Ooh.
Robert Kandell, check. Okay, thank you so much. What was it? Loda Vicious?
Loda Vicious.
Loda Vicious.
Cool name. Cool name.
Thank you. And also thanks to HuffPost for choosing us as one of their top dating and relation shows to listen to spice up your commute. And we have a way to spice up your your fitness routine in just a moment, and we'll be back with your questions. You're listening to Dates and Mates. Whether you're interested in toning up, losing weight, or just getting healthier and feeling more active, the first step towards making any life change is to get a plan and to get support. I have found mine in Beachbody On Demand. You can stream all of Beachbody's fitness programs and get all of their nutritional guides from 21 Day Fix, PiYo, Insanity, T25, P90X, P90X3, and more. And if you hate sweaty, stinky gyms, you don't feel comfortable exercising in a gym, or you feel like you don't have time to work out, then Beachbody is just the thing for you. You can work out anytime, anywhere with Beachbody On Demand. And fans of Dates and Mates can get a 14-day risk-free trial on the annual Beachbody memberships. You can go to datesandmates.com and click the Beachbody banner to try it out. And whatever your health and fitness goals are, Beachbody has a program for you. Take the 14-day free trial to see if the plan's right for you. And once you start seeing results and having more energy and feeling more confident, you're going to want to keep going. But the first step is to just get started. So try it risk-free at datesandmates.com by clicking the Beachbody banner. Welcome back to Dates and Mates. We have so many questions from you guys, and I have such qualified people in studio here with me, Carmelia Ray and Robert Kandell. So we're going to move right into your questions in the next segment.
Technically dating.
All right, this question comes to us from Henry on Facebook. Hi, Henry. He says, hi, Damona. It's like we're having a conversation right now. In your opinion, why are there so many women choosing to stay single for quite a while? What's their main reason, in your opinion? So I have my opinions, but I want to hear your opinions, Robert Kandell. What do you think is, we did talk about how women are staying single longer. Why is that?
I think we talked about this a little bit, this concept of how the bar has been raised for men to step up, and women in the past have been like, I'm good enough. Like Jim Collins, good is the enemy of great. They've been in the good. And now they're in like, no, I want it to be great. So they're willing to stay single longer to find the right guy to meet them.
Mm-hmm. But is this backfiring on us, Carmelia? Are we staying single too long?
Anybody that I speak to is not single by choice. So when you're talking about more single women being single, how many of those single women want to actually be single? So it could be a possibility of holding out, having too high of a bar, setting ridiculous standards for themselves, or really not knowing, what's important to them and what makes for a great relationship. Idealizing, the J-Lo and A-Rod relationship. And if they don't have that, they'd rather be on their own.
I would like to posit a theory right now. I think that many of these women are not actually single. I think they're already married to something else. Their job, their family, their singlehood. And I find a lot of times when I'm coaching women that are single into their late 30s, 40s, 50s, that it's because they've chosen something else that fills them up, that makes them feel great about themselves, that dating has given them a lot of frustration. And yet when they give their energy to, let's say, their career, they get the feedback loop is there. They get positive feedback. And so then they're like, well, I'm going to put more into that. And sometimes when I'm working with women that have been single and have been really devoted to their careers, I'm almost like I have to divorce them a little bit from their job to create that space so that a man can feel like he has a space in her life and a function when he comes into it, because he'll feel it if you're like, oh, I've got this work meeting and I'm seeing my girlfriends on Friday night. He knows she doesn't have room.
She's doing me. She's choosing herself as a priority rather than investing time and opening up the possibility of dating.
I totally agree with all that, and also I think a lot of women are just keep looking in the wrong demographic.
Tell us more.
Like what I mean by this, it's funny. I did a mastermind, and I was talking to these 20 to 22-year-olds, and they're like, where are the good guys? I think they actually said guys. Where are the good guys?
Where are they?
And I said, well, are you looking at the right demographic? And they're like, who are you looking for? And they're like, well, guys are not really interested in working on themselves. I said, go look at the geeks and the nerds, because that's where I started as a geek and nerds. Because I was a total, I mean, my wife will tell you for sure, but I am still a total nerd. But the nerds are the ones who are interested in building their techniques to handle modern women. So if you're single, maybe just change demographics.
Oh, that's a good point. Yeah.
You're like nerds.
Nerds rule
You're
the world.
giving the nerds of the world, right? That's amazing.
Well, and as women go up the career chain and make more money, I feel like we have this idea that, well, I have to date someone that makes more money than I do. And so then the bar keeps getting higher and higher. And so now you're making $250 a year. US dollars.
Yes, I got that.
And
I got that.
you're looking for a guy that's making $500,000, and there are 4 of them that are available for you. You know,
there's 4.
and they're dating
4 to every 20
different gals.
women
So
that are
maybe
in
you
that
need
income.
to manage your expectations. Actually, that's a good segue into our next conversation or next question. This person says, I'm moving in with my boyfriend of a year and a half. We both make 6-figure salaries, but he makes about $30,000 more than I do. I think it's fair for him to pay a larger share of the rent and bills because he makes so much more. He thinks we should split everything 50-50. What do you think? I see this so much now as people are cohabitating before marriage. They're like, okay, we're mingling our finances, but it's a little bit gray. What do you think, Robert? Do you think that it's fair for him to ask for 50-50 or should it be based on income?
I think if they're looking at the refrigerator of their relationship, there's not much chance this one's going to last very long. Because if you're already at that point of nitpicking this specific thing, there's something underlying where she doesn't feel met. So I think the money conversation is hiding something deeper. And I would actually say to this person, I would really recommend you find out what the underlying resentment is that you're talking about 30,000. To me, it's like whatever feels best to both of you. If there's a it's just my spidey sense is screaming about this one.
I'm hearing that it's all about her right now and that she wants what she wants and what she thinks is appropriate for their relationship. And clearly he's not on the same page. So she's forcing her opinion of how that finances should be divided. And same thing. What else are you going to nitpick on? It sounds, I don't know if they should be moving in right now without having that conversation and a relationship agreement in place. Strongly recommend it for her boyfriend.
I'm going to throw another idea into the mix because I also am hearing a lot from women in the workplace that are still feeling like the patriarchy still exists and it's not equal pay for equal work. So maybe this is also a manifestation of her feeling like he makes $30,000 more than she does. And maybe this is her reacting to the fact that she's feeling undervalued for the work that she's doing, and she's sort of passing that frustration onto her relationship.
I think that's a great call. I mean, I know I pay for the sins of all the men who have not treated my wife well. I am taking the hits for the dad who left and the boyfriends that didn't treat her, the first husband that didn't take care of her. And two choices are like, one is I can say like, well, that's his stuff, or two, come on, baby, just bring it out. Let's get this clear. Let's shine light on this. So I think it's totally true what you're saying. That's the underlying resentment. Like work out that resentment, but don't destroy the relationship over pay.
Yeah, because it sounds like he's getting penalized for earning more. Okay, so I'll just get a job where we earn the same amount of money and then we can be equal. Right?
And things get all kinds of complicated too.
Sure.
Like if you start adding kids to the mix and then who's paying for what for the kids and then maybe you have to take a break because you're raising the child, and then that would just breed even more resentment.
Are you talking about my relationship?
Oh,
I'm just kidding.
no, but girl, I've been there. I have
Yeah,
two of my
course.
own, and our relationship and the amounts of money that we have made has changed
Shifted.
substantially from the
Absolutely.
time we were dating. And my husband was an unemployed aspiring writer, and now he's writing on big TV shows. And I was a TV executive, and then I was a mom, and then I was dating coach, and it's like.
Can you imagine if you had that, like,
Spreadsheet.
you
That'd be a
know,
complex
your relationship
spreadsheet.
was based exactly on how much each of you made through the changing course? Like that would be, it's about values. I think in this particular case, it's really about a value or a lack of appreciation or something underlying. It's not really the money.
Agreed.
Right. Okay. So we're advising her to go a level deeper there.
Yes.
This question comes to us from Instagram from a fella named, we'll just say M.O. What is the best way to date if you have decided to ditch dating apps? Carmelia, I think you know things.
Yeah. Well, the best way to date if you're deciding to ditch a dating app would be, first of all, to create a list of places and activities and things that you'd like to do either on your own or with a friend. You can't meet sitting at home. So for people, that's the one thing. And then a lot of times you would think that you would meet somebody who shares an activity or an important lifestyle. And it sounds cliche, but go where singles go. I mean, look at events. Facebook has events listing. Every city that I travel to, I will look at what's happening in the city. I go to the major convention centers. I take a look at meetups. Meetup.com is a great resource for that. Friends and family, grab a girlfriend. But the other thing is be aware. Get off your phone. Don't have it with you, because while you're out and about, most people are focusing on, they're looking down instead of looking up. And that's what's more important. You don't have to go far to meet anybody. You really don't. You can ride the bus. You can go to the grocery store. You can go to church, wherever it is that you are, as long as you are paying attention and you're making eye contact.
And not all dating apps are the same. Not all dating apps have the same functionality. I know you are also working on an app, but it's really a matchmaking app.
It
right?
is a matchmaking app, so it's actually, you can try that because
Tell us about
it's not
Senseo.
swiping.
Senseo
Yeah,
is what it's
Senseo,
called.
and you can find out about it on Senseo.love. That's CEN.
We'll put the links in the show notes. Yeah,
Senseo. So Senseo is about, instead of swiping, you're actually presented a match. When a match comes up that is appropriate based on our matchmaking intelligence, we use artificial intelligence and our own algorithm for that. And we have a storybook technology, which is different. So you can read about a person through a storybook form, about 10 pages. It's pretty intense, because when most people are looking to hire a matchmaker, we spend about 45 minutes to an hour going through a very in-depth interview. It would be the same thing as for anybody who's done an eHarmony profile. It takes a long time when you're really being diligent about that. So that's one of the features, is that we're matching according to artificial intelligence. We're delivering one quality match at a time versus the overwhelm of having to swipe.
That's great.
Yeah,
That's great. We'll
thank
check
you.
it out. Robert, what do you think? Offline, I know you're married, but you talk to a lot of fellas, and you have a pulse on what's happening in the dating game. What else can people do in today's world, the way that we're communicating today?
I mean, I totally agree what was just said. And the two things that popped in my head was definitely Meetup, which I think is the coolest thing ever.
I saw you nodding.
Like,
to that.
yeah, that's
Meetup.
what I recommend. The second is hang out with people of the opposite gender who you don't want to date. So for men, hang out with other women and hang out with them of service and not trying to get anywhere. Because when you hang around with the opposite gender, I have this friend, or you meet the friend. And so make friends, hang out with people. Like you said, you can't meet anyone at home. Go out and be social with many people as possible and see what happens.
There are wingman and wingwoman services, by the way. So you can hire yourself a wingman.
Yes.
Thomas Edwards.
Yes,
them,
exactly.
Right?
Yeah. And you can also get your friends to be wingmen and wingwomen.
Right.
If you tell them your goal while you're going, I had a client that was going to a dinner with friends, and I said, she's like, it's all married people. I said, make those married people your wing people, because they're not trying to get anything from, so make them talk you up and then say, oh, you should meet my friend so-and-so, and then they can bring you over. But I would just say, why are we crapping on dating apps? Like, I think really in today's world, it's a necessary part of your dating portfolio. It's like people that are like, oh, well, I don't text. And I used to say that at once upon a time. I hated texting, and I'd say, I don't text. And I have clients that say, well, I don't like, some of my older clients, they're not used to the technology. They say, I don't like to text.
Aren't you the expert text trainer?
Yes.
Yes, you are.
You can't say that any longer. You can't say, I don't text. You have to learn. This is why I teach people how to text. You have to learn how to do it effectively. The reason that you say you don't want to do it is because you haven't gotten the results that you wanted from it. So
Lack
you
of
need
skill.
to get the skills to do dating apps more effectively and find the right one. Maybe you haven't been on the right one, but if you go into it with that attitude, then that's
Yeah,
what
I
you'll
mean,
get
you
back.
haven't tried refrigerating. Come on now.
Refrigerating, try Senseo,
Yeah.
do something else.
Exactly.
Just do something. That's all the time we have for today's show, right, Producer Leah? It went so fast.
It was very fast.
Well, we'll get to the other questions next week. I promise. I do this every week. I'm like, I'll get to your questions. No, I really will get to your questions. But I wanted to make sure we had enough time to talk about Unhidden, the book for men and those confused by them by Robert Kandell. And you can find out more about Robert at robertkandell.com. He's on Facebook at robert.kandell, Twitter at Robert Kandell, and Instagram at robert.kandell. We will put those links in the show notes. Thank you so much for being here, Robert.
So much fun. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And Carmelia, all the way from Toronto.
Woohoo.
I'm so happy that you were able to join us for
Thank
a three-peat on Dates and Mates. You are on Instagram at Carmelia Ray and your website, carmeliaray.com. And also season 4.
Yes, season 4 of my television show, Mom vs. Matchmaker, coming out this summer. You can watch previous episodes on mixtv.com, and it will air on LTV stations in the summer. Thank you for having me.
Exciting. Thank you for being here. And thank you for listening to episode 251 of Dates and Mates. Tell me your relationship troubles. I promise I will get them on an episode of Dates and Mates. We want to answer your questions. You can send them to me on Facebook, Instagram, or Twitter at Damona Hoffman. And next week, we will have one of the top matchmakers in the country, Julie Furman, host of Cupid's Coach podcast, joining us in studio. I know we all know each other.
Oh, I love Julie.
We're all love
I'm gonna miss
bugs
Julie.
and love friends. So, well, but you can listen to the podcast
Yes, I will.
later. All right. Well, until then, I wish you happy dating.